Hello YouTube, this is a recorded video that I'm doing for a video presentation I'm doing on the different kinds of blocking in +R for the +R Discord. If you're watching this right now, welcome from the VOD. This was recorded on July 4th, Happy America Day, and we're just going to jump right into the slideshow here. There we go, look at that. Shoutouts to OBS for hooking that. I want to make sure everybody can see the slideshow good enough. Is the text readable? Is everything good? For anybody watching this on the YouTube VOD, I am reading a chat room to answer any questions. Great, thank you. So if I answer a question kind of randomly, that is simply because somebody asked it. So, what is blocking in this game? There's a few different types of it. Obviously you hold back or down back to block regularly, and you always block relative to your opponent. But there are 3 different types of additional blocking in this game that are all extremely useful, and will help elevate your play if you're just starting out or if you're pretty new to the game, even just implementing it a little bit. So I'm going to go over all 3 of them as comprehensively as I can. And we're going to start with faultless defense. Let's go slideshow. There we go. So, faultless defense, you can see that there is a green ring around a character when you use it. So I'm going to hop right into training mode here in the in-game footage and demonstrate what that looks like. So when you use faultless defense, you see that little green ring, and you'll notice the tension bar is going down. Let's go back to the slideshow. You hold back and press any 2 buttons that are not slash and H. If you do slash and H, you get a slashback. More on those later. But faultless defense has a number of really good effects. The first and the most obvious one is that it negates any chip damage you take, which is massively important in this game. Chip damage can add up really fast. There's a number of supers and moves in this game that are designed to do a ton of chip damage, and using faultless defense is the best way to deal with those without evading them. Number 2, it stops your guard bar from increasing. This is also important. There's a number of characters that have normals that will tear through your guard bar and increase it. And your guard bar not only impacts whether or not you get counter hit when you're hit next, but it also changes how much damage you take, as the guard bar is tied to damage scaling in this game too. It increases the pushback distance of blocked attacks, so your opponents are pushed, well, rather, you're pushed further out when you block an attack with faultless defense, but also your opponents are pushed farther away too. And this goes both ways. We'll get more on that later. But it also increases your block stun by a variable amount, depending on the attack level. And obviously, as you saw, it was draining my tension gauge, and it can be held for an indeterminate amount of time. The 2 largest and most important things about it are these 2. Okay, let me try and draw a proper circle. My mouse hand is a little twitchy. What are attack levels? So attack levels are basically every normal or attack in the game has a level, and that determines how much block stun it has and how much, hit freeze it will have when it connects. So it's a rough estimate of how much frames of block stun a move will have. It's a little confusing at first, but if you've ever seen level on the Dustloop wiki, yeah. So higher level, yes. Higher level moves also are impacted differently by faultless defense. We'll get to that later too. But generally speaking, the higher a level attack is, the more block stun it has, yeah. So, what are the applications? We're going to go over these with some examples in just a second, but you can block grounded attacks in the air with faultless defense. Normally, attacks that are initiated on the ground are generally air unblockable. So things like an anti-air, like a 6P. Normally, you can't block that in the air. But if you faultless defense, you can block it. And this is really helpful for tech traps. You probably are going to need to use faultless defense if you've ever run into Axel. Or if Soul Bad Guy, for instance, decides to anti-air you with his DP, which is very good. It pushes opponents farther out during pressure strings, as I mentioned earlier. This is generally a big deal at dealing with a lot of common pressure scenarios in this game. A lot of characters have to work around faultless defense by doing different things on offense. So if you use that, you can force people to change how they pressure you, and maybe introduce more gaps. Or at the very least, get them off you. It will stop your guard bar from getting cranked. I know if you're fighting ABBA, it might just happen anyways, but it slows down the process at the very least. And it makes it a lot easier for you to not get hit and take a ton of damage when and if you do get opened up. It can mess up tick throws because throw protection kicks in more aggressively. Because the way Faultless Defense works is that it adds it adds block stun frames. And when you are in block stun for longer, if somebody tries to tick throw you, they have to account for the additional block stun because throw protection kicks in after it ends. So as an example, if Soul Bad Guy does like 2p and then goes to like wild throw you, you might have to delay it a slight bit more if you Faultless Defense the 2p, because you exit block stun a little later, and the throw protection lasts for those 5 frames after you leave it. This is a more advanced application of it, so don't think about this one too hard, but it is an important thing to remember. And also, you can do a technique called Faultless Defense Breaking, or shortened to FD Breaking, which lets you cancel out of your run and effectively move forward a lot safer. What are tick throws? No, it's fine. So when somebody makes you block an attack and then they immediately come up and throw you, I'll do an example in game of a tick throw. And you've probably seen this happen with Potemkin. So that's his regular throw. Let's go to the play black slot 1. There we are. See that? That's a tick throw. So Potemkin does 5p, and then he grabs. He grabs you right around when the block stun is over, but a couple frames later to avoid the throw protection. You've probably seen people get snagged like this. That's what a tick throw is. More or less. Or something like this with Cliff, where... Let's set the dummy to guard. And we'll have you... we can leave him crouch here. This. Something like that. That's a tick throw. You force them to block an attack, and then instead of continuing with another attack like this, instead you do a throw. Yeah. More or less. You've probably seen that happen to a lot of people if you've watched the game being played. Like block string. Yes! 100%. And FD breaking, which we'll get into. I'll do that right now, actually. I might as well show off what I mean by cancel out of your forward run. I'm going to switch to Soul Bad Guy here, who is my favorite de facto training mode character.
Please select your character.
Everyone's favorite character, Soul Bad Guy. So normally when you run, the only way to cancel it is by stopping, which has like a slide, right? You'll see these to stop. You can attack, or you can jump. But if you use Faultless Defense while running, look at that. You'll stop moving. And if you do it while crouching, you'll slide a little bit too. Like that. And that's a good way to move forward really quickly, while also not having to go through the long run-stop animation. Like that. So you'll see a lot of players, when they're looking to see what their opponent is doing, but they still want to advance a little bit, they'll do something like this, and they'll wait and see what's happening. You let go of back? Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. Like that. But generally, the crouch method is pretty good, too. But that's basically all of the applications of Faultless Defense. Let's see it put into practice. You saw that tick throw with Potemkin earlier, right? This? Where he does 5p twice, walks forward a little bit, and does Pop Buster. Wow, sucks, right? But if you Faultless Defense, pushes him out of range. And this is really important, because you can punish stuff like this if they're not paying attention. Like that. Now, obviously, I don't have the Soul Bad Guy punishes. This isn't the character I play, but there are a number of options you can pick. But it's very good at getting characters off of you. And another example I have here is Soul Bad Guy's pressure is he has to work around Faultless Defense a lot with this pressure, and you can force him to have to be more aware of that. So let's say Soul decides to do this. You know, okay. But we can push him out a little further and make it so that we can actually get around the gun flame a little easier. See that? And what this does is that this forces him to do something like this, which takes more time than just doing this. But Faultless Defense is very good at getting characters farther away from you, generally universally. However, there are places where you shouldn't use it. Like any mechanic in this game. One of the most common places you don't want to FD normally is on attacks that pull you inward. Because Flawless Defense exaggerates the pushback, as I mentioned earlier. But it also exaggerates the pull in. And now what does that mean? At a gameplay level. Well, let's look at Axelo, everybody's favorite character. This 2H has the vacuum effect on it, right? Pulls you inward. If you Faultless Defense it, it'll actually vacuum you in more. And you generally don't want that, because not only does it vacuum you in more, it increases the amount of frame advantage he gets. It's, so, yeah, you don't generally want to do that. Potemkin, yeah, Potemkin 2S, somebody mentioned. And you just, generally, you don't want that.
Select your character.
S-Beast example, we'll get there. There's a more interesting one. But S-Beast is another great one. Can I use 6H to pull them in? Yes! You sure can. Make sure you space it for the second hit to connect, because the pushback might still affect the first hit. But, yes, if you see them doing that, you definitely can. And it'll make you more frame advantageous as well. So it's always something to consider. When you see someone faultless defensing your stuff, remember that you're more, like, you're safer. Yep, any projectiles, which I mentioned on the slides here, yes. Thank you. Specific projectiles. There are some where you want to, like Venom Super, for instance, Dark Angel. Unless you're willing to take the guard bar build-up and the chip damage, you should faultless defense that. Generally, though, you want to be really cognizant of using it. If you're using faultless defense, you need to have a purpose for it. It's a great catch-all tool, and it's okay to rely on it. But you want to be thinking about why you're doing it. That's the common theme with just about any option in this game. Even if it's just a little bit, you don't want to expend too much brain on it, but just keep it in your head, right? What is my goal when I do this? And it's all about watching what your opponent is doing as well. But you'll get better at that as you play more. But that's generally the do's and don'ts of faultless defense. I can give more examples if people would like them. For projectiles, you shouldn't FD. But I think this is a general good estimation, right? So, oh yes, we will cover slashbacks. Yes, they're last, though. I don't want to emphasize them right now, because they are... I shouldn't call them unimportant, but when you're starting out... Is this why the Yes! FDing Justice Nukes is, yeah, you just... It can be good if you're avoiding chip, but generally, yeah, unless you need to, you generally don't want to FD them. You want to pop them, but that's a different conversation. Either way, we're going to move on to instant blocking now. This is a type of blocking that has no visual effect until you actually do it properly. So, I'm just going to set the training dummy to do an instant block, because that's a lot easier than using up a recording slot. We're efficient here. So, our dummy, who is not a dummy, is going to just guard. What the game calls just block in the training menu, that is instant block. I don't know why they call it just, but for the sake of this tutorial and, you know, everything else, every other place calls it IB or instant block, so we're going to call it that. But when you instant block, see, he flashes white. That's the only indication that an instant block happened. So remember that. When you see a character flash white when they block your attack, they've instant blocked it. How do you do it? You block within 8 frames of a move hitting. 8 frames might sound like a lot, or it might sound like a little, depending on how long you've played fighting games. But 8 frames is actually pretty generous if you're familiar with timing windows. It's, for anybody that's coming from Strive, or maybe is just starting this game from Strive, you'll notice that it is 4 times as lenient. So if you're okay at IBing in something like Strive, here you'll actually be very, very comfortable So that game will have prepared you for this kind of thing. So yeah, you press back or down back within 8 frames of a move making contact, and you'll see your character flash white. If you mistime an IB, the game won't show you, but you will be locked out of doing another IB for just 21 frames. These 21 frames do not care about hit stop or anything. So it's just straight up 21 frames of in-game time period. Instant Block has a bit less special properties than FD. It doesn't do quite as much on the onset. But what it does do is really, really important, and it forms the core of what strong defense in this game really looks like. Instant Block reduces the block stun by a set amount based on attack level and whether or not you're on the ground or in the air. Sounds like there's no downside? We'll get to that. But you're on the right track. Does IBing a move that pulls in reduce the amount you get sucked in? Yes, more on that later. You're going to love what I have for that. It'll get your brain going. It significantly reduces the pushback, as I just mentioned. There is a small tension bonus. So it does increase the meter you get for blocking by a little bit. And this one's really big as you get better at the game. Instant blocking has a positive effect on your tension pulse. To go over that really quickly, because I don't want to take up too much of this presentation with tension pulse and how important that is. Tension pulse impacts how much meter you get, period. It's an invisible value that you can't see outside of looking at the how fast the little lines across your tension gauge are moving. When you see, like, the animation on that going really high or really fast, let's see if I can't demonstrate it by using everybody's favorite character in this game, I'm sure.
Please select your character.
Faust. So Faust has an item called the Chikuwa. It is a food item, and it instantly maxes out your tension pulse, and this is a great way to show you how to tell what your tension pulse is. There it is. Alright, so we're going to go to recording slot 1 since we already used that. We don't need it anymore. So he's going to throw Chikuwa. Look at the bar. See that? Notice how it's moving at a different speed than Faust's there. That's the game telling you what your tension pulse is. You have a rough idea of what it is based on how fast that's moving. And that just impacts how much meter you get. And yeah, tension pulse is very different across characters. Don't think about it too much right now. But know that when you instant block an attack, your tension pulse goes up. And this is awesome, because that just means you get more meter, period. So if you instant block multiple attacks in a row, you keep getting more meter, and that meter bonus gets better and better as your tension pulse goes up. So obviously, you can see how really useful that is on the onset, right? Very great. So, I mentioned it earlier, we're going to get to this later. So here's a nice little chart from Dustloop that basically shows you how much instant block and faultless defense affect how much frames of block stun are on an attack. So you'll see faultless defense doesn't have a huge amount of impact on really low-level attacks. But when you get higher on the attack levels, look at that. That's an extra 4 frames, a lot. And when you IB a higher attack level, look at that. It takes off 4. Air FD is pretty uniform. But the real kicker, look at this. See this? This is massively important. You sure can. Air IB. We're going to get to that in a second. But Air IB is extremely useful when you know where to use it and how. And it'll give you a lot of ideas on how to navigate things on the screen you never even thought of navigating around. When you know this, you are armed with such powerful knowledge, and you have ways of dealing with things that you never thought you could before. And this is why when people tell you when you're baiting a burst, to air IB it. Because when you jump IB a burst, look at how much faster you'll be able to punish it. No, air IB, you have to be able to air block the move normally. And that's not a dumb question, that's fine. That's a completely normal question. And also, big important thing that I did not put on the slideshow that I was going to mention here, you cannot IB and FD at the same time. You either do one or the other. If you try to IB and FD at the same time, the game will just give you an FD. Why is level 4 air IB more than level 5? Is it? Looks like it's -7. That takes off 8. I misread, no problem. This graphic, by the way, want to give a massive shout to the Dustloop Wiki. Thank you, Tarkus. If you're seeing this later, Tarkus and everybody else that works on the Dustloop Wiki have helped me tremendously in putting this together. And I could not have done this without the resources on there. So everybody remember to go thank your wiki editors. Even if they make a boo-boo sometimes, they're working really hard and they're doing it for like no money. Alright, let's look at some applications of IB. And we're going to start with my favorite one. And this involves everybody's favorite character, Testament. Who doesn't love Testament?
Select your character.
Everybody loves Testament, right? Now, I'm sure we've all been in a situation... We have all been in a situation involving this character. You see here, I'm picking Cliff. Famous character. So, you know, you've dealt with this, right? You ever block SEXE Beast and... Oh! I have to guess now, because you're vacuumed in, right? You're pushed right towards the character. And even if you jump and air block it... Oh, God. Wow. What do I do about this situation? Well, when I said air IB drastically reduces pushback, or instant block in general. See that? Look at that. So if you ever have time to jump IB, SEXE Beast. You can completely change how Testament has to pressure you in that situation. You can change how far they have to go forward, what they can even do, and they can't time what they're doing next to be meaty unless it's a far slash or something at a distance, like a 6H or a 6K. And also, you can act really quickly, too. See that? You can air dash backwards from it, too, which I learned today. I just learned that today. Because you're facing away when you block this. But air IB, very useful. Most projectiles in this game. You do the S. Yes, that's the trick. They would have to basically catch you at a pre-jump, and that's a big part of this character's mix-up and RPS, which is an entire different presentation. But this is more just a general example of what's useful about IB. Yes. But to answer that question, yes. It's mostly just to give you... to show you how much you can play with this mechanic and change how you approach a bunch of situations. Like... let's say Testament puts out Skull. Right? You jump block it, whatever. Not a big deal. But if you jump block it, you can't act before you land like that. What characters have to watch out for IB the most? Everybody. That's the fun part about instant block. It fundamentally changes defense and offense at every point. What are meaties? Moves that hit you in a... Oh, this is a hard one to explain. Basically, when you're getting up and somebody puts an attack on top of you and it hits you right when you gain control. I think is the best way I can describe that. So for instance, I'll just give you a visual on it. Let's turn off blocking. Whoops. Wow, how do you mistime that? That hit meaty. That was a meaty. Yeah, it's Oki. Yes, meaty is Oki. It's kind of similar. You can meaty for Oki. But meaties are a part of it, yeah. Things like Anji Butterfly, yes! Absolutely, that's a big part of that character. But yeah, no, if you air block Skull, You can't act very quickly, but if you air IB it... Lots of stuff you can do with jump IB and regular IB. Another one. I have another example because this is one that still gets me to this day. So if you don't IB this or you don't do the proper thing against this on defense, well, you're not alone. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. This move? Or rather, let's just have him do this. There we go. This is an overhead, right? Classic Axel overhead. This is +1. This 6H that Axel has is +1. It is infuriating. Even if you IB it, he's only -1. So the punish isn't super great. Or he's not -1, but he's not super minus. But you can jump IB it. And that gives you a much better punish. Like that. Axel is -3 on IB? Yeah. So you don't get a true punish. But if you jump IB it, you get a much bigger punish. But I'm bad at it. Jump IB throw? Oh yeah, there we go. That's a good idea. Yeah, like that. So how do you know the value of a move? Every attack in this game's level is denoted on the Dust Loop wiki. There is a way to look in-game, not necessarily at the actual level, but more or less every attack has a different kind of block spark on it. You'll see when I set him to guard, you see it's got like a little one there. That's like level 1. Cliff 5K is level 3 move, and it's got a little bigger effect. It doesn't necessarily tell you the exact, because Close S is level 4, and the spark looks the same as 5K. But you can kind of get an idea based on the effects. Yeah. Level 3 and above have this, and level 1 and 2, I want to say... Or no, level 1 is that little one there. And level 2 and above have this one. Yeah, that overhead is nasty to deal with. So when you know how to jump IB and throw it, look at that. Throws are frame 1, so you can always jump IB throw it. And, you know, if you're Cliff, let's see something fun. I'll show you all what Cliff can do from a throw to this character. Because it's hilarious. Stuff like that. Very fun. Yes, Cliff can stun you instantly. But can you get the IK there? If you have 100 meter. If you have 100 meter, you can do this. If you have full bar, yeah, you can do that. But you need 100 meter. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go back to the slideshow. Here's the question somebody asked earlier. Crumpberry, right? Yes. Should I ever not do it? Generally, no. Instant block is super, super handy in pretty much every situation. And even if you don't get a punish when you instant block something, you'll get that tension pulse bonus I mentioned earlier and that bonus meter. And having meter in this game is incredibly good. I mean, obviously, you want to just do your FB Fafnir as Haas, or you want to do, like... I don't know. Does anybody have a good force break they like doing? There's a Justice player in here. You gotta love Superior, right? Baku? Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, there you go. 25 meter is Baku. That's true. I actually didn't even think about that. That's the best dead angle in the game. FB Dan? Yeah, see, look at it. All that stuff you're talking about, you need meter. An instant block is a great ticket to a ton of meter. Now, people can pressure you a little differently due to the reduced pushback. it's not a big deal. I wouldn't call this super big. It is worth mentioning. I don't think it comes up often. Usually the reduced frame advantage makes people go, oh no. Does Haas CC negate IBs? I don't believe so. So if you see them IB a normal, that's going to change how you have to pressure them, yeah. Yes, that's a big example. Charge stun edge. Now, the big one with instant blocking, the limitation is largely the human brain. Keep with me here. You have to intentionally go for them. I did mention that they are 8 frames. They are pretty generous. But if you're looking to IB something, you are giving that your mental attention. And people can take advantage of that. You can mess up the timing. It's like, kinda, but not really. It's more just... if you mess up the timing and you tap it the wrong time, sometimes you'll get hit by a meaty. Sometimes you'll try to IB something and you'll get hit by a low, because you're going to IB standing. It's weird. IB lockout was mentioned earlier. And yes, IBing multi-hit attacks can be difficult. It really depends. But I'm going to give a common situation with Cliff because I can, and I know this character very well. A situation where you can use IB against Cliff. Not that this character is played very much, but an example of like how to IB a multi-hit move.
Select your character.
So Cliff Drill is -8. So the punish isn't impossible without IB, but it's tight. And sometimes you won't get it. But if you IB the last hit, like that, see that? Well, okay, that was some 2D jank, but more or less. So that's generally what you can do with IB on multi-hits, too. Again, the instant block lockout window only happens for 21 frames. And those 21 frames can go by while you're in hit stop and block stop. So by the time Cliff's drill gets to the last hit, you've already gone past the lockout window. You can go for that IB on the last hit. Stuff like that. And yeah, if you hit a bunch of IBs in a row, your tension pulse goes wild. Like, I'm going to try and demonstrate that here. Oh, no, I'm bad at it. Oh, well, I got one. But more or less, yeah. It's really helpful for tension pulse. Rid of that pen ink there. What did everybody come here for? Obviously to learn about slashbacks. I do need to talk about these. I'm going to preface this. This is aimed at newer players and starter players. These are really high risk, particularly if you're new to the game. And I need to make that really clear. These are extremely dangerous to go for if you don't know what you're doing. But if you know what you're doing, these are really good to have. And I do need to stress that implementing them will take time, and even the best players at this game, right now, do not slash back a lot of things. They slash back some, and they do it in ways that are good. And when you understand where you can and can't do it, it becomes immensely powerful. But until you get to that point, it's dangerous. So, how do you do it? It's performed by pressing back and pressing slash and heavy. So if you've ever seen this yellow ring around your character, you're like, whoa, I hit 2 buttons, where's my FD? And it's this. It looks really funny when you do it a lot. That's a slashback. That's what a slashback looks like. It has really, really unique properties compared to any of these other options. It consumes a really small amount of tension. Not a lot. You can't hold it. You cannot hold it. If you slash back successfully, it'll cut the block stun of the attack that hits you down to 3 frames on the ground, or 1 frame in the air. Yes, 1 frame of block stun if you slash back a move in the air. Literally nothing. It's almost like you just completely erase it. However, big thing about slashback, it disables blocking when you use it. If you successfully slash back, it's disabled for 15 frames. So if you slash back, like, full 5p, because you're just mashing it and you accidentally slash back it, if he does 5p again, you have to slash back the next 5p. Or else you can't block it. And if you mess up your slash back, that lockout is 30 frames. It's double. It's almost always better to do IB. If you don't know what you're slashbacking or what you're looking for, it is almost always better to IB. The 8 frames on IB is the window, the timing window you have for it. So like you press, you guard 8 frames within being hit. Flashbacks can't be done for 10 frames on wake up. So when you're getting up, and you've just gotten up, you can't reversal slashback. Not necessarily. Oh, for some moves, yeah, it depends. But generally, well, no, I don't know. If a move was like -5, and it was level 3, but yeah, you'll always be more plus if you slashback. Slashbacking is consistently always gonna cut the block stun the most out of any of these. But it's really dangerous. You can't do it for 10 frames after getting up. This is a big one. If you could slash back on wake up, this game would be a lot different and probably a lot worse. So for those 10 frames, you cannot slash back after getting up. You can reversal and you can FD and you can instant block, but you cannot slash back. If you successfully slash back, you get a really big meter gain right away, and also your tension pulse goes up a lot. Like, your tension pulse goes up a lot if you slash back. And now here's the big one. Slashbacking is a 2-frame window. And yes, you have to block high or low properly as well. You have to slash back within 2 frames of being hit to successfully slash back a move. No, you can't slash back an unblockable. You would still get... Yeah, no. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? No, the mist is eternal. You can air slash back Rashosen. Yes. And you can air slash back Potemkin's Heat Knuckle too, which I'll try and show. It's funny. Yes, this does... It is buggy, because this game is bad. But good. This game is good. Sorry. That came out of my mouth. Sorry. sorry. Oh yeah, if you slash back Abba's unblockable, it still staggers you. Don't do that. Don't slash back that one. The slash back window is tripled if you successfully slash back a move. So if you slash back, like the first hit of a multi-hit move, the window to slash back the next hit is at the very least 3 times as generous. So if you know it's a multi-hit move and you're slash backing it, you can tap with a decent enough rhythm and get all 3. Or all 2 or however many. So I talked about the risks. And I talked about the limited applications. Here are some moves where you can slash back and it will actually have a meaningful effect, and it's kind of something you can go for. It was mentioned earlier that slash backing Kai 3H isn't great. It's fine, actually. If you slash back that, it becomes 0, I believe. Because Kai still recovers really quickly, but you're +0. So it does remove a lot of his frame advantage, and the timing is preset. That's the big thing about slash backing. If it's a move where you can see it coming, and you have an idea of the timing and it's very consistent, something like Kai 3H is prime for slashbacks, if you're good at it. So let's say I'm going to have Kai do a 3H for me. Well, see, I messed it up. Messed it up again. There, like that. Is there a physical move that is plus against slashback? I don't know. Soul JH? Of course. Of course! Well, whatever. But yes, that is what a slashback looks like. And it's nice to have. Is Mega Fist good slashback material? Honestly, if you're okay with being knocked down, maybe. Generally, you want to slashback things that won't like, for instance, let's say kind of a pain because I don't think you can put Abba in Moroha mode. What is the... I don't remember her inputs. Let's see. I don't play Abba, so... Da-da-da. That's Cliff. Why did it pull up Cliffs? Hold on, I have to... 62314P Bloodbag, thank you. Thank you very much. There we go. And I think... Oh! I remember that move! Oh, yeah, yeah. So this move! That is +5! It staggers on hit. Yay! Fun! So, if you get hit by it, you're in a stagger motion. You're in a stagger state. So going for a slashback on this move is actually not the worst thing you can do. Because you can get a decent punish or at least not be in a situation where she's plus. Yeah, she's -10. Yeah. And the big thing about this is that if you mess up the timing and you get hit by this, it's not a counter hit. And she was already going to run up and pressure you anyways. This is a situation where going for it does not outweigh the risk of doing it. Because if you get the slashback, you get a full punish. And if you don't get it, well, you're dealing with what you were going to deal with anyways, more or less. Flashback and Super Flash Jank? I would, but I'm not 100% familiar. One day, Dark Cloth. But yeah. So those are the kinds of situations where you want to use it. Or like, let's say, here's a common one. Here's a common block string you're going to see from Cliff. Woo! Very fun. Now you can IB the JH and make him less plus. Obviously. But you can also, if you know the timing... Because this move is really slow. But if you mess up, obviously you get hit. You can do stuff like that. So, yeah. Those are the kinds of situations you'll be doing slashbacks in, more or less. So, to cap it off, consider them good to know, not 100% important to do. At the moment. If you're just starting out with the game or you're new, good lord, do not think about these more than you need to. They are not imperative. Like, even at a high level, they're not 100% needed. They are good to have. They are not required. But they are a defensive mechanic and a type of blocking, so I felt the need to mention them. And that's everything, actually. For all the talk about how daunting this game is, I think this breakdown was nice and simple. I don't think we spent more than 10 minutes on each. And this is pretty much all the kinds. From what I've shown you, I hope this is, good enough examples and good enough questions that have been answered to give you an idea where to do these. And don't overthink how much you do it and how, what you get out of it. This is important. Even the best people at this game do not utilize every single one of these absolutely perfectly 100% of the time. This game does not have an input buffer. This game is really rigid. It is full of micro interactions and really dumb situations. You're not going to be able to do all of this 100% of the time. But if you can do it about 70, 80%, and you can do it with intentionality and an idea, you will play immediately better than you were before you knew all this. And the question I'm going to answer now is, how do I practice? Just try it. In fact, I'm just going to highlight this. Try it. Always try it. Replay takeover, 100%. 100% replay takeover. Oh, Slayers, it's late? Let's talk about that. Because I can. Do you hate dealing with that crap? Crumpberry, who do you play? You play Chip, yes? Alright, sick. Alright, so Chip does have punishes for this normally, but we're going to talk about IB in the context of... That's Pile Bunker. There we go. Ooh, fun! This string's cool, right? Oh, no. And you can 5P, but you'll get hit, right? Oh, crap. But if you IB the first hit here... Whoops. Oh, see that? You can mess up. Instant block changes everything. Everything changes.
Please select your character.
And if you want something even funnier... Whoops. Maybe not there? No, alright. I think you can do a... Nope, 5P, right. No, maybe not. Maybe not with... Oh. But yeah. You can IB and get a punish with other characters. Is there a timing for IB and Cliff's drill? You can grab there, maybe? No, he's invincible. That's throw invincible. This uppercut, or this little punch, that is throw invincible. Slayer cannot be thrown when he does this move. Yeah. You can actually put your input to neutral to block Cliff Drill. If you block the first hit. This game has absolute guard, yes. Peter's actually 100% correct. So, for instance, watch my inputs, right? That I let go. Like that. If you're still in block stun, your inputs don't matter. If there's a 1 frame gap, you can't hold nothing and still block. But if it's gapless, you can do that and just let go of the stick. If I let it go, will it IB? No. You have to time it manually. You can't block well into... Yeah, no, yeah. See? Absolute guard. You can even teabag while you're blocking. Why not? You can do whatever. What? You'll block. But yeah, that's... Is there any fighting? Third strike. Because of red parries and other things. There's probably more, but what this is called, generally this is called absolute guard, this mechanic, if I'm not mistaken. God help me if Infilament watches this video and he's like, you didn't use the glossary? Okay, good, thank you. Oh, thank God. I don't want to get grilled. But I'm going to emphasize this slide. Try them. Think about it. Be creative. Look for places. And don't get mad if you don't get it. What is fuzzy blocking? Oh boy. That really depends on what game you're playing. What if I try insta-blocking everything? Good. Try that. 100%. I can't explain fuzzy guarding. Yeah, thank you, Als. I can't explain it because I'm not sure. Every time I hear it, people do it different. I guess it's not bad to try. Absolutely not. Always. Always do it. So just experiment. That's the big one. This game is all about being creative. At the very, very, very least, just think about spots where you thought, I can't get out. Or I can't do anything. And I need something. And go into your replays and try IBing and seeing what changes. Don't get upset if you don't do it right away. Take your time. You'll do it more and more and more as you play. And as you get better at it, it'll feel way better. And you'll start seeing applications in the middle of a match and just thinking about it and trying new things. It's really hard to explain, but the longer you play this game, the more you get a sense for this. And it is a little difficult, yeah. But it's safe to go for, generally. And the game wants you to IB. So much of this game is built around instant block. But that's basically everything. Stay tuned for the next one. I plan on going over a different topic. The next time I do one of these, I'm going to try and put it together at some point. I'm going to go over acceptance, because that is a big one that I'm seeing a lot of people not necessarily having a hard time with, but one that I think people don't think about a lot. Understanding that things are going to happen in the game. Where can you find my other ones? I don't have any up yet, but they will go onto my YouTube channel of the same name. But acceptance, not to spoil the entire thing, but there's a lot of situations in this game that are very frustrating. And I want to kind of unpack that and go through it in a way that helps new players feel less bad about being new players. Because that's a big problem I see with this game. And I want to kind of get rid of that. Before you know the mechanics, or even after you know the mechanics, it's 100% important to not feel bad about not knowing or something happening. But regardless, we'll go over that when we get there. But thank you all for coming. This VOD will be uploaded as soon as I can. And yeah, that's it. Have a good evening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed.